Welcome to a special live edition of Legal AF. I'm podcasting from the National Lawyers Summit here in Miami Beach, Florida. Got a great new announcement. We're going to be launching the Popok Firm in collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, Legal AF, and Big Auto, a team of nationwide lawyers who are dedicated to finding justice and obtaining justice for those that have been injured in catastrophic injuries. And I've got the CEO of Big Auto, Nic Edgson, who's going to be joining me a little later to talk about the collaboration, why we love Big Auto, and why Big Auto loves the Popok Firm, Midas Touch, and Legal AF. And then a special guest here at this live edition of Legal AF. I've got, let's put it here, I've got Omarosa, who's going to be interviewed by me. She, of course, a communications director for Donald Trump in the first administration. She has a lot to say, I'm sure, about the first 11 or 12 days of the new Trump administration, and sort of do a compare and contrast as to what she observed those so many years with Donald Trump and his current policies that are all being challenged in courthouses around America. So tune in. I'm glad you're here. And we're going to do a Legal AF right now, break it up into certain interviews, put it up on Midas Touch and on Legal AF, and I'm glad you've joined us. My special guest on Legal AF Live at the National Trial Lawyers Conference is Nic Edgson. He's the CEO of Big Auto. More importantly than that, sorry, Nic, is that he is my lead collaborator for the Popok Firm. And I wanted him on to talk about this new law firm that we've established to obtain justice for people who have suffered unfortunate catastrophic injuries, with their team of nationwide trial experts, settlement experts, and the like. And I couldn't think of anybody better than the CEO of Big Auto to join us on this special edition of Legal AF. Nic, I'm really looking forward to this new collaboration. What I loved about it, and what the Midas Touch and Legal AF stakeholders loved about it, is that the Big Auto ethos and DNA matches our own. We believe in ethics, we believe in equity, we believe in justice, and matching what ends up being big industry, big business, big insurance. The person on the other side needs a team of people that can equalize that can balance that can beat that. And all we had to do was do our research about Big Auto, and Midas Touch and Legal AF were looking for that team of lawyers to collaborate with, and we were like, we found it. And so what I wanted to do now is have you tell our audience about Big Auto, what it's all about, and why you're enthusiastic and excited for this collaboration.
Well, Michael, it is a pleasure to be here with you. So excited about the collaboration, about what we get to do. There's been a lot of discussions lately, right? As we think about, hey, how are we going to do this? What is Big Auto? How can we help you out? And so really excited for this start of our journey together. So Big Auto, we specialize in getting the best attorneys around the country involved in the right accident. So what was a lot of fun when we started talking about it, and as an avid listener and an appreciation of your podcast, is you are focused on helping those who need justice, right? Who need the right people at the right time to help them get what they need. So that's what Big Auto does. We've taken a lot of time in assembling a team, both with our Big Auto team, with our leadership team, and all the people that are involved with Big Auto, and then also with our attorneys. So we have attorneys all over the country that specialize in representing the client and getting the maximum justice for each and every client. So when we started talking about this, I was like, hey, I've already heard this from Michael before, focused on justice. This is what Big Auto does. So it's a natural partnership, and really excited about it.
Yeah, what we liked about the Big Auto relationship is we saw certain hallmark words being used: fairness, justice, results. And when my team got together and said, can we think of a better match of DNA than what we do on Legal AF and on the Midas Touch Network, and what Big Auto is all about, and the reason that it was formed? I mean, when I tell people about Big Auto, I say it's like a super conference, a team of lawyers around the country who are expert, not only in the particular injury that somebody has suffered, but in the jurisdiction, the locale, the courthouse that person needs to file that lawsuit or start negotiating against big insurance or the companies on the other side or the governmental entities. So for us, it was a dream come true. Why don't you tell our audience about how it works? They make, and let's just tell everybody right now, it's the Popok, it's www.thepopokfirm.com. And of course, we have a 1-800 number, which everybody should know. It's 1-877 Popok AF, of course, 1-877-POPOK-AF. But then from there, that's where the collaboration with Big Auto really kicks in. Why don't you tell them about that?
Yeah, so first to go back to your earlier point about the national team of attorneys. So we're sitting here in Miami at the National Trial Lawyers Summit. What's fun is all of our team that's been vetted, that we've taken a lot of time, decades and decades of experience have gone into building this. And part of why we wanted to do it is because we know the best attorneys, the ones that are presenting, the ones that are getting the biggest verdicts, the ones that are getting the biggest settlements in the history of the U.S. settlements. We've got them as part of our team. And so that's what Big Auto wanted to do. We see a lot of law firms that are national law firms or that have a reach right into other states. But a lot of times they don't know the local courts, the local judges, the local quirks and nuances that you need. That's what Big Auto has done. So we've gone out and figured out, okay, we need a specialized attorney in Michigan, in Texas, in California, in Florida, wherever we're at. Big Auto's got the right team of attorneys, the right attorney for that case, and to get the biggest verdict. So how does it work? We make it really simple. We want to take the stress out of what can be some of the worst times in a person's life. A lot of times they haven't ever been in an accident before. Sometimes they've never worked with an attorney before and they're worried, oh man, they cost too much money, they're too expensive, I don't want to deal with it. No, it's a free consultation right out the gate. They call the Popok number, they reach out to our team, and our team's going to help them out right from the beginning. So we have a wonderful intake team that is seasoned and focused on identifying what's the issue, what happened in the injury, what happened with this case, who needs to get involved so that we can get our attorneys and the right attorney involved to really help their case out. From the client's perspective, all they need to do is pick up the phone, text. There's form fills on the website as well. Get involved and start pushing your case along so that we can jump in and really help place that.
And for our audience, I have already shopped this. I have called anonymously the 1-877 Popok AF number and had some amazing people on the other side answer the Popok Firm and Big Auto and start an intake process. I was very impressed by it. Look, we're quality controlling this entire thing from top to bottom. You'll see the new website. You'll see the kind of the co-branding relationship with Big Auto. And what I wanted to talk about with you is what attracted you to Big Auto, because you are a practicing lawyer. What attracted you to become the CEO of Big Auto? And then we'll talk about what attracted you to be in this collaboration with us.
Yep. So I'm a big team guy. So I played sports. I played college football. I was up in the Canadian Football League as well. I've always been attracted to that side of things. Now, litigation is fun because it's a bit of that game and that sportsmanship, as you know, and you got to go through that and do the right thing. But as I started getting further along in my career, I was really drawn to those pillars in our industry and finding out, man, what did they do? What made them great? And so as we started talking about Big Auto and what the team was trying to assemble, it was a no-brainer for me. I get to jump in with the best attorneys in the country, both on our team, with our leadership team, and then also with all of these great law firms that we've vetted, pre-vetted, got them in, go through a rigorous process to get into the Big Auto network. But as we started forming this idea of seeing this need, look, clients need justice, as you talk about with your listeners all the time. They need that good representation, that great representation. So as we started talking about how we can do this, that was the aha moment of this is it. This is the time. It's a need. Clients need to be able to take the stress and the worry out. That's what I want to do. That's what our whole team wants to do, is to make it really simple for the clients, make it easy for them so that they can relax and focus on what's the most important, which is during these injury cases, it's getting better. It's trying to get their life back together. It's trying to get through the next day. Let us handle everything else so that they can focus on that most important part.
Yeah, and people know I've been a practicing attorney for 35 years. I've tried dozens and dozens of cases, and I can tell you Nick is exactly right. You gotta have a local presence, a local expert that the judges respect, the juries respect, and as importantly, the opposition respects. The opposition lawyers, the ones representing big insurance, government entities, big business. That's the type of lawyers that are going to be placed on your case. And I love this, call the 1-800 number, the 1-877 Popok-AF, and immediately you've started your case or the case evaluation process through Big Auto, and then leave it to them. You may have left the state in which you were injured. Maybe you're now sitting in another state, or you're from another country. We have 138 different countries represented by our audience, but you were here in the United States and you were injured somehow. All you have to do is get a hold of the Popok Firm, and then Big Auto will take care of it from there. So that's what we liked it because of we wanted to make it, as Nick said, easy on our client base, on our audience. You've just suffered potentially such a life-altering event to turn your life upside down. Now you need justice, and now you need a professional by your side that is the equal or greater than those that will be arrayed against you. And that's why for us it was really a no-brainer for Big Auto. What is it about our audience, Nic, that I know you're a fan of Midas Touch and Legal AF. What is it about your understanding of our audience and that we've built over the last 5 years that's attractive to Big Auto? Why do you want to be with us?
Yeah, so you speak of justice, you speak of informing, getting good information into the hands of the people that need it the most. And a lot of times they're turning to you, your listeners are turning to you, I'm turning to you because I trust you and I know that you're going to go do the work to get the answers ahead of time for what do I need to listen to? What's going on with the law, with the politics that I can know and trust? All right, I don't need to spend hours and hours researching and doing this because I've done my research ahead of time. I know I can trust Michael and go through this. That's what we've done. Although this is a newer collaboration, newer partnership, the attorneys that we have been working on this for decades, right? They've had the biggest settlements, the biggest verdicts for years. So this isn't some new thing. So when the clients are calling us, when the listeners are reaching out to us, that's what really resonates with me is your listeners are already in tune with that important thing, which is it matters. It matters who you have. It matters who's the person that's representing you, who's in the court, what's the relationship with the judges, with the other attorneys, with the insurance companies, with the medical providers. All of these things matter. And we've done our research. We've gone ahead of time and set this all up to try and make it really easy so that they can come to one place for the information they need, one place for the representation that they need, and can help them out.
Yeah, and just look at where we are right now, just to show you where Big Auto kind of sits in that firmament, that constellation of big-time lawyers in this country. We're at the National Trial Lawyers Summit, and Big Auto is here. It's not a boondoggle, notwithstanding the great weather that we happen to have today. It is a working conference where lawyers around the country and the Big Auto lawyers around the country get together to talk about, what are they seeing in their cases? What are they seeing on the insurance lawyers on the other side? What are amazing new best practice strategies that can be used to obtain justice for clients? It's important that lawyers talk to each other. It's important that top lawyers talk to each other. And I can't think of a better place to do it than the National Trial Lawyers Summit here in Miami Beach. I was so thrilled to see, of course, Big Auto so prominently featured here, and a perfect place to launch our new collaboration, the Popok Firm times Big Auto. Nic, I can't think of a better partner in this adventure than to have you in it. You and your team, Ashley, Martin, and everybody else on the team, along with our side, Tracy and Alan, just working round the clock over the last month or two to put together the final touches so that we can make this launch as successful as possible. Really appreciate you being here and taking time for Legal AF.
I agree. Thank you, Michael. Yeah. It's been a pleasure.
You too. We're here on a special live recording edition of Legal AF on the Midas Touch Network, and I'm honored and thrilled to have a special guest. Omarosa is here to join us to talk about amazing new developments in her own life, those that connect to helping people obtain justice who are injured, a new law career for her, and of course, we're going to talk about certain aspects of her best-selling book, Unhinged. Omarosa, I'm so pleased to have you here on Legal AF.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to join the show.
We are here. We are also. And National Trial Lawyers Summit is where we're at. Tell us about your connection to the National Trial Lawyers Summit and this new chapter in your life.
Absolutely. Well, this is my first week on my new job. I have joined the Popok Firm. Fantastic. And was invited by the firm to come down to this incredible conference to pick up some skills and make amazing connections.
See, people know you, I'm sure, from you being on The Apprentice with somebody that eventually became president of the United States, and later being communications director in the Office of Public Liaison. Also served in 2 administrations, one Democratic and one Republican. But now you've got this new amazing career. Tell our audience why you wanted to go to law school and then why you chose the Popok Firm.
Well, I left the White House and went back to Hollywood. I did some amazing projects in LA, and I absolutely love reality TV. I'm so grateful to my reality TV audience who has followed me for 20 years, very loyal fan base. But I always wanted to go to law school, and I took the opportunity to pivot. I call it a pandemic pivot because this was in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic.
By the way, Legal AF was a pandemic pivot.
Was it?
Yes, it was. We formed it during the pandemic, absolutely.
A lot of amazing things came out of that difficult time for me, pursuing this dream of becoming an advocate for those who don't have a voice for themselves, who can't fight for themselves. And so I started law school. I am completing my legal journey in May. But in the meantime, I'm so excited to have joined the Cochran Firm.
So in particular, why did you choose the Cochran Firm, which is also a collaborator with Big Auto? Why that firm in particular?
Just two words, Johnny Cochran. I mean, you grow up watching Johnny Cochran, seeing the work that he does and did, the impact that he made in our community particularly. I mean, a lot of people know about the O.J. Simpson trial, but they don't know how he fought for the little guy, how he went out into communities to make sure that they were brought justice. And so when you talk about firms in this big legal world, that name stops everybody in their track. And it's because of the work that he did and the change that he made. And so when I had an opportunity to meet Keith Gibbons during my time at Mass Torts Made Perfect, I actually was selected to be one of their fellows. And when I met him, it was an instant connection. One, because we both are in some ways inspired by the legend of Johnny Cochran, but in a way we can also advance the work that he's done and touch so many lives through the work that we have an opportunity to do in the future.
Yeah, and unless you read Omarosa's book, which I recommend, some of her biographical details may have, people don't realize your educational background. Tell the audience a little bit about, this is a second career for you, a COVID pivot. What was your background before the degrees that you've held, the educational background that you had? Because a lot of people might be, oh, that's the person from The Apprentice, or that's the person who got unceremoniously fired by John Kelly in the Situation Room, and they don't really know you as a person. They know more what mass media has portrayed you to be. So this is a great opportunity.
Like a trailer to a movie.
Yeah.
In the Situation Room, bum bum bum.
2 hours
coming to the network.
Right.
So I was educated at Central State University, where I received my bachelor's. I was an athlete. I had a 4-year scholarship at Central State, a part of the Lady Marauders volleyball team. I was ROTC, come from a military family. And I went and got my master's and my doctoral studies at Howard University in Washington, D.C. I knew I was going to be in politics. I always knew I was going to be in politics. I wasn't sure how. But right out of graduating with my master's degree, this amazing woman I work with, Doris Crenshaw, said, well, what are you going to do when you're finished? And I said, I'm not quite sure, Miss Crenshaw. And she said, well, I have a friend who works in the White House. And that was how I got my first job working for Al Gore, doing policy, which was what my doctoral studies was in telecommunication policy. I worked for Gore for about a year and went over on the Clinton side doing presidential personnel.
See, that's something, it's just right there. That's something that people, I don't think, an initial takeaway is that you had worked for a Democratic administration, the Clinton-Gore team, before you ever got into the Trump administration.
Well, funny story.
Yeah.
Donald Trump was a Democrat when I met him, when I first met him in 2003. In fact, at his wedding that year, he invited Bill and Hillary Clinton to his wedding, and they were often a part of the things that we did. So at the time that I met him, politically we were aligned. Fast forward, I went on The Apprentice, as you mentioned. And that was an incredible experience. I, of course, had an opportunity to do that show for on and off for about 10 years. So I did 3 seasons of The Apprentice.
We talked at the top of the segment about the fact that people have been following you and supporting you for over, now I can't believe this number, I'll apologize in advance, over 20 years. But if they want to follow you now, especially with these great new developments in your life where you're becoming a lawyer for justice, joining the Cochran Firm and doing all the other things that you do to help the downtrodden, those that need justice, where can they follow you?
They can follow me on all social media. On Twitter, I'm at Omarosa. On Instagram, I'm at Omarosa. On TikTok, though, I'm Lady Omarosa, of course, but you can also email me personally if you have any issues at omarosa@cochranfirm.com.
So having served in the first Trump administration, we're now 10 or 11 days into the second Trump administration. Already there's been 10 different lawsuits, 4 different courthouses, 2 different federal judges have already blocked, temporarily at least, the executive orders for Donald Trump, one on birthright citizenship, one on impoundment or funding and the like. But what have you seen out of the 20 or 30 executive orders? What is most concerning to you right now that you'd like to talk to our audience about?
Well, all of them are quite concerning. His abuse of executive power is, one of the things that raises the alarm. But the impact of some of these decisions on people who least expected it. I mean, there are seniors who are worried about whether or not they're going to get their Meals on Wheels. I saw an email come across my student email where there was some concerns that Pell Grants would be frozen, that financial aid would be withheld from these students. And so it's kind of sending shockwaves throughout all of these different communities who are just really concerned about what their future looks like.
I mean, Medicare and Medicaid portal, web portal,
Just
crashed.
It just stopped.
Because of the way they rolled it out. I mean, their argument, the Trump administration's argument was, we're only going after businesses and not-for-profits and cutting off their funding temporarily.
No, it's intentional. One of the things that I write about in my book, Unhinged, to combat Donald Trump is to starve him of attention, right? And so that's why I think shows like yours are so incredibly important, because it takes you out of that loop of cable news shows that repeat the same things over and over again. You actually provide facts and solutions. You give this call to action that people can actually operate on. I heard you tell your audience, get involved with local politics, get out there and volunteer in your school board. That is the way that you combat Donald Trump. But these executive actions that are impacting seniors and students and the community that are just so worried about what their future looks like, that concerns me. May I also point out the action that he's taking against federal workers? As someone who's worked for 20 years in and out of the government, the backbone of this democracy are those career civil servants, right? Who get up every day and they do the thankless job to keep this country running.
Apolitically, independently.
Independently.
Yeah, right.
And for them to receive emails from someone from a private email address.
Like a Gmail.
It was like a Gmail.
Right.
And people were sending these things to me saying, oh, is this real? Should I respond? And my message to them is, do not take the buyout. One, you may not get paid. I mean, it's just the reality. You may be kicked out of your job and you may not get the buyout. You may not get the compensation you expect. But two, because there are processes in place to protect civil servants. And those are the things that we need to look to at times like this.
So just to frame it for our Legal AF audience, and by the way, I think I almost blushed when I realized you were referencing a show that I just did last night on and heard it, which was great. You never know who's in your audience, but I'm so honored to have you in our audience there. He's gone after Department of Justice career prosecutors who are just doing their job and without any regard to their due process rights or their civil service rights, has fired them outright without compensation. Another group of federal employees, he's decided to force them into furlough or force them out to take 7 months. By the way, I thought he was supposed to save us money. Instead, he's spending our hard-earned taxpayer dollars to buy out people in a retribution way of 7 months' salary. And I hear your point. Don't take it because it's illusory. They may not get that money at all, and they'll have to fight to get paid. There's going to be, to add to the 10 lawsuits in the first 10 days or so, there's going to be, it's got to be thousands of lawsuits that are going to be filed by federal workers, Department of Justice people, because you're not, to answer the question our audience asks, no, he's not allowed to do this. It is illegal. It is against federal law. It is against constitutional law.
And there are processes in place that need to be followed that he's completely ignored.
Let me ask you a question, see if you're comfortable with it. He, by his actions, by trying to operate his administration through, almost exclusively through executive orders, and the way he's doing this, and implementing the Project 2025, Russ Vought, Office of Management and Budget techniques here to try to shrink government, get rid of the administrative state and the rest. He knows he's going to embroil his administration in almost daily lawsuits. So in the first administration that you were a part of, there were over 1,000 lawsuits that were brought by the NAACPs of the world, by the ACLUs of the world, by attorneys general of the world.
And what was the first one?
The
Muslim ban.
And the first one was the Muslim ban.
Yes.
And what we talked about on Legal AF for people that said, hey, how come that lawsuit about birthright citizenship was filed in federal court in Seattle? That was the first courthouse that blocked Donald Trump's executive order on the Muslim ban. So that was 1,000 lawsuits. I expect there to be 4,000 lawsuits. And the winning percentage in those lawsuits, so people know you can beat Donald Trump, is 80%, right? 80% or more of those lawsuits were won by the attorneys general, by the public interest groups. And I expect them to do those kind of numbers again.
But can I speak
But here's the question. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Knowing that, Why does he want to embroil his administration in almost daily or hourly federal lawsuits?
Because he's always weaponized litigation. Even in his private life, he has always used the court systems to exact revenge. He also knows that there's no way that many of these cases will be resolved by the time he's back at Mar-a-Lago playing golf. So it's a part of his strategy. But I want to speak to your point about the litigation. As you know, my book, Unhinged, was the target of his litigation. While he was sitting in the Oval Office, Donald Trump came after me for writing this book. There is a cost to being in litigation with the President of the United States. It's exhausting. He has so much power and so much money, but you can win. And I'm living proof of that. But it does take a significant part of your life. And it takes a significant part of your joy for that time. It was 3.5, almost 4 years. Ultimately, of course, I was victorious, but there is a cost. So all of those people who will, in fact, be filing these lawsuits, it comes with a price. And I really just feel for them because it will be a long, arduous process.
Did your decision to go to law school, join the Popok Firm, and help people obtain justice, was it in part in what your experience was with Donald Trump?
I think it was important that I had a legal education. I was already embroiled in 2 separate legal actions with Donald Trump by the time I ultimately went to law school. But no, it goes back a little further. My father was killed when I was 7 years old, and his murder, it was the first time I was ever, because of his murder, it's the first time I was ever in a courtroom. My mother didn't have a sitter for me. She took me to one of these hearings with her. And so when people ask, what's the first time you've ever interacted with the justice system? It was having to sit in the same courtroom with the man who took my father's life. But fast forward, my brother was also killed, and having to go through that process and try to protect his children. And so there are issues that push me to make sure that I am, in fact, being a voice for those who can't fight for themselves, because at that tender age, I couldn't.
Yeah, I loved reading about your mother and her being there for when you were, I guess, sworn in, or a ceremony there, her working round the clock, 12 hours a day,
Yes.
trying to keep, and now I understand the background of it, and your unique connection to the law and why you want to help others. When I heard that you went to law school, you joined the Popok Firm, I thought, this is perfect. We got the Popok Firm, Midas Touch, Legal AF, Big Auto.
And my father was a long-distance truck driver.
Oh, wow.
I've got pictures climbing in and out of this big cab.
It's all come full circle for us.
It has totally come full circle, but you also have to follow your dreams.
Yeah.
No matter how old you are, if there's something that you're passionate about, I think it's an incredible opportunity for you to go after and never give up on that.
Well, I'm going to use this opportunity to invite you as many times as you'd like to come back to the Legal AF channel. I think your unique voice is desperately missing from YouTube in particular. I would love to have you on more than once.
Well, you'll see me a lot because, the Popok Firm is a big part of the Big Auto Network.
Yeah.
And I want to take this opportunity to say to your viewers that if there's anything I can help you with, please, my email is open to you. My social media is open to you. Just email me at omarosa@popokfirm.com.
So great. And don't forget her book, Unhinged. Still a bestseller, of course. I'm so honored to have Omarosa with us. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having
Real
me.
pleasure.
I enjoyed this.
Real pleasure. One of the great benefits of doing live recordings like for Legal AF at the National Trial Lawyers Summit is you stumble across some amazing trial lawyers that are fighting for justice. And look who I found, Mark O'Mara, based in Florida?
Yes, Orlando, Florida.
Yeah, why don't you tell our audience about the unique practice that you have? And then I want to talk about working with other co-counsels around the country to bring justice to individuals.
Sure. So local practice, which is Central Florida, is about half criminal defense and half family law, which means good number to have, never a number you want to call. But, and then on a national level, mass torts, which is basically holding drug companies responsible when their drugs mess up or other products.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, we use that shorthand, mass torts.
Yes.
Why don't you give a little fuller description of the type of cases that fall under a mass torts type case?
So basically, most people think it's what's called a class action. It's a little bit different. What happens if there's enough clients who have the same injury, let's talk about a drug, talc is one of them that got a lot of press in the past couple of years. And if you're talking about that, if there's enough people spread around the country with the same injury, in that case it was cancer, then lawyers get together, and it's a good way to sort of have an equal footing with the defense team. Because let's face it, if it was me going after Johnson & Johnson, there would be a pile of paper bigger than a sign, and I'd never see the light of day again. But now when you have sort of this commonality of other lawyers who do the same thing, we sort of equal footing. And that's really what mass torts is.
Yeah, I think one of the things our audience on Legal AF enjoys is hearing about the practice of law. I mean, I come to it from a 35-year experience, trial lawyer, tried dozens and dozens of cases as a national trial lawyer around the country, arbitration panels, jury trials and the like, global head of litigation for Cantor Fitzgerald, and all things related to that. And I think I can see from the comments and from the notes when we do our hot takes that people want to know what it's like to be a lawyer, sort of the tricks of the trade. Talk about your long career and why, what gets you motivated in the morning to go to work? What gets you excited to be a lawyer representing people who need justice?
So it's funny because I've done this for decades and people ask me what I do for a living. That's exactly what I say. Sometimes I say I train prosecutors in my criminal side and they get all uppity. What does that mean? Well, I'm a criminal defense lawyer. Sometimes I just say it's damage control because that's part of it as well. But, this is not work. This is, passion is an overworked term, right? Oh, I'm passionate about it. But I will tell you, I wake up in the morning looking forward to going to the office every day because I've got whatever dozen clients that have to be addressed that day in some form or fashion. And it really wakes me up. It really gets me going in the morning because nobody really likes lawyers until you need one. We're down there with car salesmen or whatever. But when you need a lawyer, you want somebody who's really good, dedicated, focused, and passionate about it. And that's what I do every day. I love this stuff.
And who's on the other side of you?
Right.
What types of lawyers, what types of entities should our audience be concerned about?
Sure. So in a criminal defense practice, of course, you're going against the prosecutors, who, by the way, are good lawyers, pretty ethical for the most part. They're just on the other side. And you usually work something out, but it's prosecutors. On the divorce side of the practice is other good family lawyers. And again, good lawyers resolve cases better. I say this to my clients. I hope that your spouse gets a good lawyer. It makes the job a lot easier. Now, that's the local practice. On the mass tort cases going after drug companies, as I mentioned a moment ago, thank God we finally are in the process where we can go foot to foot with them. But, Johnson & Johnson and Merck and places like that, they hire the best of the best. They pay them the most of the most. And I will tell you, they will work you to death. And if you're not passionate about it, if you're not doing this, not as a vocation, but an avocation, to really get in there and fight that true fight, like you say, really trying to get justice for people who simply will not get it on their own, then you lose.
One of the reasons that the Midas Touch brothers and Legal AF decided to launch collaboratively the Popok Firm is because we wanted to co-counsel with and work with a team of lawyers around the country because our audience is around the country. We are literally in all 50 states. We are in 138 countries, and many of those people, unfortunately, come to the United States and maybe don't have the best of experiences. They get injured in an accident or something like that. And we thought, what a perfect opportunity for us to develop that working relationship. Now, you do that on a daily basis as part of your more mass tort practice. We decided to collaborate with Big Auto. What do you know about Big Auto from your work in the National Trial Lawyers and all? What do you know about that entity?
Well, it's a great company that's, first of all, fast growing, which is really good. And I love what they do. But the idea of co-counseling just makes perfect sense. If you asked me to write a brief for you, I would gently decline. That is not what I do.
Right.
Ask me to cross-examine somebody or go into a courtroom and do an opening or a voir dire or jury selection. That's perfect for me. So what's nice about the co-counseling opportunities with Big Auto and what you guys do is you get to pick the people of the team that have the talent you need. Much like, a surgeon, right? You want to get the anesthesiologist, you want to get this specialist, and that's what co-counseling, affords us.
Yeah, I use the term. I say that I'm building a virtual law firm because if you're going up against a 2,000 person law firm, I worked in 2,000 person law firms. If you're going up against them, it's not like you have to have a 2,000 person law firm on the other side. What you need to do is to get the experts from around the country for the particular thing that you need. The appellate lawyer who does appeals, the brief writer, right? The one who's great on their feet, who can do the cross-examination, the one that can do the expert cross-examination of that expert, the one that can negotiate the ultimate settlement through a mediation process or other type of process. And we can put it all together And it's as if we're in a law firm all together, but we're not. So I call it a virtual law firm. And that was the advantage for the Popok Firm, joining up with lawyers like yourself and, of course, with Big Auto. And has that been your experience, being able to pick the best of the best in their areas?
Yeah, it really is. And what's nice about it is, yes, if I was part of a 2,000 law firm or lawyer law firm, I guess I can go down the hallway and find somebody, but you don't need to. And you don't need that overhead, quite honestly.
That's right.
So now you get to pick someone like me, for example. I love picking a jury. So that may be a focus for a trial that we have.
Why do you like picking a jury?
Oh, I
do too, by the way.
God, I think I love picking a jury.
Yeah.
If there was only one thing I can do in my life, it would be to walk into a courtroom with a file and then pick the jury for the case.
Tell our audience who likes this kind of inside baseball stuff. When we say pick a jury,
Yeah.
we talk about the voir dire process, or however it's pronounced in your neck of the woods. What are we talking about? So talk about that process.
So it's an opportunity with 60, 80 people who know nothing about the case, and quite honestly also know pretty much nothing about the law, except what you learn in civics class, come in, and we have to decide which 6 or 12 of those are going to be able to hear our case and apply the facts to the law. It's a great process, but it has some real concerns to it, right? I mean, you 12 people, and you say, we'll tell you once or twice what the law is. We'll give you a week's worth of facts, and now you have to go figure it out. So in one sense, it seems a little bit fragile or frail. But on the other hand, it's a perfect system to get what we consider in our country to be justice, which is jury of our peers looking at it and figuring out what is just, right? What is right. So the process of picking a jury is what I really love, because it's the dynamics of getting people to acknowledge who they are, which they don't like to do, and quite honestly, their biases. You can't walk in and say, everyone who's racist, raise your hand. Mm-hmm. But you got to get to the point that we all carry these predispositions, what I call implicit biases, with us. You know, we all have them. I have an implicit bias that the people on the other side of the double yellows are going to stay there, or else I can never drive. That's okay, but when they get to the point where they bias you against your client, you got to vet them out. And I love the process of subtly getting them to talk about stuff they don't want to talk about.
Now, do you ever use a jury consultant to help you with that?
So I've used jury consultants in the past, and I think they have a place. Again, I've done a bunch of them. But what I really think you need to do, and what every good trial lawyer has to do as malpractice, is you have to do social media investigations on your potential
And what does
jurors.
that mean? Talk about that. What does that mean?
That means as soon as you get the list, you have 2 or 3 people in the back of the courtroom on their laptops looking at who that person is online. That's social media, do Google searches or whatever. Because here's the thing. And in a case I had about a decade ago, we found 3 what we call stealth jurors. Those are jurors who did not care about the facts of the case or the law. They had a preconceived notion as to what was going to happen in the case, and they would have hung the jury in that case had we not found them. But if you do social media investigation, the way I look at it is my gut, and you know, you're going to follow your gut. But if you find a social media posting or something that's out there,
you can't ignore it.
You cannot ignore it. And it might confirm your gut, which is perfect. But if it contras your gut, you got to get rid of them.
I like picking juries too. I just wanted to hear it. I wanted to hear it from you. Let's just talk about the business of law for 1 minute. Talk about how you get cases, how cases come to you. And then I assume you're on social media. So talk to our audience a little bit about how they can find you if they have a case and the type of cases you're looking for.
Yeah. So first of all, I've been doing it for a long, long time. So most of my practice is referral to us, other lawyers, or just you've been around for a while, you have a reputation, you can make a reputation over career, they say, and destroy it in a day. But if you don't, then people will refer to you. So I get a lot of it from that. However, you have to have a social media and a digital presence in 2025. You can't not. And one reason why is survival, because I would tell you, some puppy lawyer out there with 3 years experience, but knows how to post on social media, has a great website, they will take your cases. Michael Mogo, a guy, says, look, good cases go to the best marketers, not the best lawyers. And it's really true.
So let's make you a best marketer here. Talk about where they can find you.
Oh, sounds good. Mark at Omarosa-author.com is my personal email. Get to me. Of course, Omarosa Law Group itself is the website. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm on TikTok, because you have to be. So yeah, easy to find on any of those. But reach out.
Now, in the Popok Firm times Big Auto collaboration, we're able to take cases and place them with lawyers like you in 50 states on all these different areas. Do you have a specific territory or jurisdiction that you like to practice in?
So all of Florida, from the Keys all the way up to Panama City and Pensacola, because that's my home, Florida. On the federal, and that's all state cases. On the federal side, it doesn't really matter because anywhere out of the country. And I've been brought in as co-counsel for trying cases in federal everywhere, New York, Massachusetts, California, because again, it's the same system, you're just putting it in a different state.
I mean, that's one of the themes here on this live edition of Legal AF here at the National Trial Lawyers Conference, is that you want to have people like Mark on your case. You want people who have an amazing prowess in their particular area, but also know those courts and know those court systems. And if Mark's not the one, then Mark's going to know somebody, or Big Auto or the Popok Firm is going to know somebody that's right for you in that jurisdiction about that specialty, and we'll put together sort of that virtual firm for you. So as soon as I heard that Mark was here, I was like, all right, this is somebody that has been living this business model, right, from a lawyer standpoint to service clients around the country forever. I was like, we got to have Mark on. So Mark, real pleasure to have you here on Legal AF.
Oh, the same. Great.
And we'll see you at the next National Trial Lawyers Conference.
Be here.
In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.